Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first live broadcast of SSDP 101 Meet the Staff, basically your introduction to all things SSDP. Hopefully, throughout this webinar, we're going to go over some things like what is SSDP, who is the staff, what does the staff do for students, what are some reasons that students want to actually join SSDP, and how are some ways that people can get involved. With that being said, I would like to turn the mic over to Betty, who will give us an overview of SSDP.
Betty, who will learn how to turn her mic off mute. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Betty Oberth. I'm the Executive Director of Students for Sensible Drug Policy. SSDP was founded in 1998 by a handful of students on a handful of campuses in primarily the northeastern United States, who all sort of started talking on the internet about how wrong prohibition was, and in particular, what an injustice the Higher Education Act aid elimination penalty was, and decided to do something about it. So let me tell you a little bit about that. The Higher Education Act has a penalty which states that, or in 1998 anyway, stated that anyone convicted of a drug offense would not be eligible for federal grants or loans, meaning that if you had a drug offense, you basically couldn't go to college unless you could fund it yourself. Of course, if you're sitting here with us, you probably agree that prohibition is a failure, that the drug war has certainly not done anything to reduce the problems of drug misuse in our communities. And you probably already recognize that things like restricting access to education is a really counterproductive measure. If what you're really trying to do is, fix the way that we handle drugs and people who use them in our communities. So in 98, these folks started organizing. In 99, we had our first conference, and that has turned into what we have today here at SSDP, which is more than 300 campuses activating every year around this same set of ideas, the same set of driving measures, even though, of course, the details have changed a lot over the last 19 years. But we do have 5,000 students on campuses all over the world who are all activating around this same idea. And whether you're in Islamabad or Berkeley, we are here to provide you with the resources that might help you push forward sensible drug policies in your own communities. We provide loads of educational resources, connections to leaders in the field, opportunities for advancement of these ideas, things like toolkits to help bring a Good Samaritan policy to your campus, or to equalize marijuana and alcohol rules on your campus, and even opportunities to go visit the United Nations. So from your campus to the United Nations, we have a way to help you start creating the world in the way that you see best fit, right? Start creating a world where drug policies are sensible. They're based in compassion, in evidence, in justice, true justice, not some notion that we can lock people up and fix the problems that way. So I'm really excited to have you with us here at SSDP. I can't wait to see what it is you're going to do, and we'll go on, I think, with introductions, right, Louis?
Yeah, had to unmute that mic. But yeah, definitely. Thank you, Betty, for that amazing overview and history of SSDP. I would actually like to start us off in introducing who are the people behind sort of the resources and making sure that SSDP stays cohesive. And so to tell you a little bit about me, my name is Luis Montoya. I'm the outreach coordinator for the Southeast and Southwest regions with SSDP. My job is to reach out to chapter leaders and make sure that their concerns are being heard, that any resources that they need or any connections that we might have, that they have access to those. I joined SSDP staff about 2.5 months ago, and and since joining, I have actually taken over the project of starting these interactive online trainings. And I would like to actually pass it along to Betty once again to just introduce yourself.
Thanks, Lois. Again, I'm Betty Oberth. I'm the Executive Director of Students for Sensible Drug Policy. So, I've had about a decade-long career in marijuana and drug policy reform. And prior to that, I was a volunteer leader for some very large volunteer programs. So I have a lot of work experience in the fields that SSDP touches, right? So activating people, youth engagement, activism, and drug policy reform specifically. But the thing that I really love most about my work at SSDP is that I get to learn so many new things every day from students who are coming to us with amazing new ideas about how we can, again, shape the world in your images. And my job here at SSDP is to make sure that the network and the national staff have the resources to create this change in the world, right? So I do some fundraising, I do a bunch of advising around, the sorts of work that we do, and I help lead the staff in this adventure that we're on. Sometimes when I need to sum it up, I say that, I build a ship and point it in approximately the right direction, and SSDP fills it with all of the things that you find valuable and interesting. Stacia?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Stacia Kasner. I'm the Deputy Director for SSDP. And this is Addie Cat. She is a special assistant on the SSDP global staff. She is sleeping right now, but she's always there for you. So as my role of Deputy Director, I do a lot of different things. I bottom line our annual conference, which is coming up next year in Baltimore in March. So mark your calendars. Hope to see you there. I also oversee our outreach department. I help develop the resources that we provide to you guys, make sure our outreach coordinators are happy so that they can in turn provide the best guidance and support to you guys. And yeah, do a lot of the other stuff that helps build the ship, as Betty was talking about. There's, a lot of like rather boring things that need to go into running a global organization, and happy to make those things happen so that, the rest of our staff can focus on the meat of the work, and that is ending the war on drugs and helping you guys achieve your drug policy dreams. So yeah, that's me. And I believe next up we have Lauren.
Hello, thanks for coming to the webinar today. My name is Lauren Padgett. I'm SSDP's Development Director, and my job is to devise and execute a strategy to raise enough money to fund SSDP for the year. I joined the team in 2014. I just had my 3-year SSDP anniversary, and I just love doing fundraising for SSDP. If we're going with the ship metaphor, I guess fundraising would be like paying for the ship's gas and like repairs and stuff like that, but it's really important. You can't run the ship without gas. So as the development director, some of my day-to-day responsibilities include growing our monthly donor club, the Sensible Society. I do major gift fundraising, and I'm also in charge of our grant applications. I also do a little bit of event planning. I plan about 8 fundraisers a year to support SSDP, and I also work with Stacia to make our annual conference happen. Can't wait to meet you at SSDP 2018. All right, I think next is Gill Murray, Dr. Gill.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Gill Murray Narlock, and I am the Drug Education Manager for SSDP. My SSDP journey started in 2009 while I was at Roosevelt University, and I was a chapter leader there, getting my doctorate. And since then, I was really interested in drug education and things like this, and I did my dissertation on it. And I was interested in bringing some of that to SSDP, so I worked with former staff members to develop our Just Say No peer education program, which is really, I think, excellent resource for all of you to really understand sort of the depth and breadth of the war on drugs, and get you really well educated and knowledgeable about all of the things that we do, so that you can in turn sort of share that knowledge with friends and peers on your campus. And that includes things about how to be using drugs safely if you choose to use drugs, and how to recognize how to help someone if they might have a problem, and how to support people who use drugs and people who work in this arena. So, yeah. Next up is Jake, I believe.
Move this over here. Hey everyone, my name is Jake Leotta. I am another SSDP outreach coordinator working on the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic regions of the US, as well as our entire international region. So I manage all of our chapters outside the United States, which is at 26 countries and growing, which is pretty exciting. I first got involved with SSDP in 2011 when I started the chapter at Dickinson College. I was a chapter leader there for 4 years, and then a week after graduating from college in June 2014, I moved to DC and joined the staff. So I've been here ever since. Could not have asked for a better 7 years working with some amazing people. And when I think about like what I do with SSDP, what I really do most is connect people, whether it is connecting people trying to start up chapters on their campus with the resources and the people they need to help them get going, whether it's connecting our chapter leaders of already existing chapters with allies and other campaigns to help them achieve change in their states or on their campus, or it's just connecting students with greater things happening in the drug policy movement. So in addition to doing all the regular things that Luis talked about in terms of managing, organizing chapters and providing advice to students and guidance, I see a large part of my role as just connecting the people in our network together, which I really enjoy doing. Since as Betty said, whether you're in Berkeley, Islamabad, Manila, or Jerusalem, or Ireland, you can find SSDP here. And one of the really rewarding things about being a part of this network is the comfort knowing that you're in this with so many other people who feel the same way you do about the war on drugs. So happy you guys are all here, and looking forward to hearing your questions. Next up, we have Elise.
Hey all, thanks for joining us. My name is Elise Sabo, and I'm another outreach coordinator for SSDP. My domain is the Pacific region, so I help connect all of the chapters out there to our resources. And yeah, as Jake said, we're primarily connectors. We help chapters grow and build themselves and connect them to our resources so that they can fight against the war on drugs in the ways that like connect with their interests. I'm also the staff coordinator for our DARE committee, which in the context of SSDP stands for Diversity, Awareness, Reflection, and Education. It's a committee made up of student board members and student members and other alumni who work to expand SSDP's diversity, and we focus on like how different communities are affected by the war on drugs and try to shed some light into that. Yeah, I first got involved with SSDP back in 2014 at Kent State in Ohio, and was the chapter leader there for a couple years, and then joined SSDP's board of directors after this past conference in March, and only served a very short term because then this position opened up and I applied for it, and super excited to be on staff, absolutely loving it. Next up is Tyler.
Hey everyone. Sorry, Luis and I are in the same room, so we got some feedback. I'm Tyler Williams. I am the Regional Outreach Coordinator for the Midwest, Heartland, and Mountain regions. So that's the upper half of the United States and no coastlines. So like the other outreach coordinators said before me, we're primarily connectors and advisors. I like to think that my accountability to the students that I work with is really to help them determine what their goals are and then subsequently achieve those. I think that's, really the crux of what we do, and it's best job in the world. When I'm not advising students and working with chapters, I also manage all of SSDP's digital assets. So that's our social media presence and our website and the chapter activity tracker, which some of you might be familiar with. And if you're not, real briefly, it's a way that we incentivize, track, and measure the activities that SSDP chapters take. And it's super exciting, and you can look at it at cat.ssdp.org. I think that's about it for me. So I'm just really excited to be here and to get everyone acquainted with SSDP staff.
Cool. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, everyone. The role of SSDP staff is to serve, represent, and help out our chapters and our network members. Like Jake said, we have chapters not only in the US, but internationally across 26 different countries. I know that in SSDP 2017, we had attendance from every inhabitable continent, which is just very exciting. Just the scope of this network and the people that we meet is honestly really exciting. One of the best things about SSDP, in my opinion, is that it is very much student guided. Our board of directors, whom we actually have a representative here, they are in charge of everything that has to do with SSDP. They are our bosses. And I will actually turn the mic over to Rob, who will let y'all know a little bit about the board.
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Robert Hoffman. I am a member of the student-elected board of directors. So what the board of directors basically does is craft strategy and help craft the guidance in which the organization runs. We're also making sure that the organization is financially solvent and continues to function as it's supposed to, which it always does. So staff does a great job with that. So what we basically do is every year at the SSDP Conference, we elect board members. There's 12 elected board members and there's 3 appointed. And so students really have a major play in the running of the organization. We are an actual official board of directors in charge of running the organization because we want SSDP to be student-led, not just in words, but actually in action. So what our organization does is really work with students and make sure that we are holding a major role in the running of that.
We're still sort of on the intros. I wanted to give a shout out and an introduction to one of our really key staff members who's sick today. Scott Cecil is our operations associate, and he is in charge of making sure that all of the gears of SSDP run smoothly. Scott is also the outreach coordinator for all of the historically Black colleges and universities that SSDP has a chapter at. So Scott is awesome, and wish he could be here with us today, but wanted to make sure that we mentioned Scott on this webinar.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Lauren. Scott is honestly an amazing person. He was my outreach coordinator, just a great person. And if any of you ever have a chance, whether you're like watching or on the stream, to talk to him, I highly recommend it. He's just like very, very wise, very intelligent person to talk to. What does it mean to be an SSDP chapter? I know you've heard that we have 300 chapters in our network, but what does a chapter actually look like? And basically, a chapter is a group of people that have at least one student in it, and falls into at least one of 3 categories. The first being that it's been recognized by their school's administration as like an established group. The alternative is that at least one of the members in that group has attended an SSDP conference, such as like SSDP 2018 or 2017 that just passed. And the final sort of category that we allow chapters to fall under is that the group is active in such a way that they merit being called an SSDP chapter. They are actively letting people know about SSDP. They're trying to get policy changes made on campus to make sure that students with medical marijuana cards aren't being thrown in jail just because they're being forced to live on campus or lose their financial aid. And interesting question, actually, asked by Robert. So one of the members has to attend an SSDP conference, and there are 2 kinds of conferences that we tend to hold. There are regional or mini conferences, and there are the annual conferences that we host. For a club or a chapter to be considered established by our standards, it would have to be the annual conference that the members would have to attend. This group of students just need to meet either on or off campus. Doesn't have to be very formal. They just have to talk about SSDP and what it is that they would like to get accomplished, either on campus, in their community, or on a state level. And send that meeting information, the roster information, to your outreach coordinator, which would be either Elise, Scott, Tyler, Jake, or myself, depending on the region that you're in. Once we get that information, we'll put you into the system, and we essentially update our records to make sure that, you know, you get a CAP page, so a chapter activities tracker page. Basically allows you to get points for all the actions that you're actually creating, and as well as a few other social media accounts that we provide to students in order to help them sort of advertise. I would highly recommend checking out the materials that we hand out to student groups that are trying to start or are currently an SSDP chapter out at ssdp.org/resources under materials. A few other things that students can engage with are the Good Samaritan policies. I believe that Morgan earlier had mentioned the naloxone, police carry naloxone initiative. Particularly because we're in an opioid epidemic, a lot of states have actually allowed police carry or some kind of third-party distribution where you're allowed to mass distribute naloxone to police departments as well as students through pharmacies. So those are some examples of campaigns that students can engage with. Good Samaritan policies are particularly those policies that allow students to call police or the emergency room in the event that somebody's overdosing or that some kind of emergency is happening and there are drugs present. So the person doesn't get in trouble and doesn't avoid calling the cops and saving a life in the event that, you know, something is happening. Definitely calling and bringing in local law enforcement to see what policies are being enforced on campus, what things students are complaining about, making sure that you, making sure, like Ignacio had mentioned, any sort of dorm privacy policies that need to be changed, or if anybody is getting kicked out or losing their financial aid on campus. Those are all sort of examples of things that people can get behind. You can also check out a series of campaigns that SSDP has previously engaged with and SSDPers are currently engaging with underneath ssdp.org/campaigns. And does anybody else on staff have any other events or programs that you think would be important for students to find out about?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about the Just Say No program real briefly, since it was already brought up and everyone seems to be excited about it, which you're making me very happy today. So thank you for that, y'all. But I want to, shout out to Robert for bringing it up first. He's a very special person in my eyes because not only is he a Rockstar chapter leader and board member, but he was one of the very, very first of our members to become certified as a Just Say No SSDP Just Say No peer educator. So thank you. And yeah, so it sounds like those on the call are pretty familiar already with the program and are going to be engaging if they haven't already, which is awesome. But the Just Say No program is kind of like I see it as a two-tiered sort of thing. So, excuse me, the first part of it is the training curriculum. So folks that want to become certified can go to ssdp.org/justsayno, and that's where you'll find all of the Just Say No training resources, including the training curriculum that will walk you through it will now be 13 lessons that we have that talk about all the things related to the war on drugs and peer education and harm reduction and stigma and how to have difficult conversations and how to take care of yourself as an activist. All that kind of information is in there and then some. And so you can go through that training, and there's a few different ways that you can do it. You can do it as a chapter, which I think is a really good way for new chapters to kind of have activities to do together. You can have discussions about the lessons and kind of work through it together that way. And the second part of it is once you're certified, like Robert was talking about, you can present the Just Say No drug education modules to your peers at school. So we have a handful of various different drugs that may be of interest to you or your peers, and a lot of information, more than you probably even care to know, on all of those things that you can talk about with your friends and peers on campus. So I love interacting with those of you who are interested in this. So I welcome emails and questions about the program and ways that you might incorporate this on your campus.
I would like to encourage everybody that's been watching this to join us on the Facebook group, the SSDP family. If you're a chapter leader currently watching this and you're not already part of the chapter leaders Facebook group for SSDP, I strongly recommend facebook.com/groups/SSDP chapter leaders. That's just a great resource. It's one of the many ways that a lot of us here on staff communicate with students, and it's a great way for students, for you to reach out to other chapter leaders and see what some events what are some events that they're hosting, and some ways that they've solved issues that maybe they've already gone through. I'm sure some of you have already been in contact with your outreach coordinators about the mini conferences or regional conferences that are coming up this fall. If you haven't heard about it, I very strongly recommend keeping an eye out for it, or reaching out to your outreach coordinator and finding out if there is one happening in your region. Stacia, would you like to maybe give a little brief introduction about the national conference, or give any information about that?
Sure. So we have our annual conference every year now. It's usually in March or April. And this year, or rather next year in 2018, it's going to take place in Baltimore. And so it's going to be Friday evening, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And then on Monday, we're going to take buses down to Washington, D.C. and go into the halls of Congress and meet with our elected representatives, talking about drug policies that they should support or oppose, to make us closer to a sensible drug policy approach. So that's going to be really awesome. There's going to be at least 300 or 400 other people just like you there. We have alumni and other supporters and some really fantastic speakers. We just confirmed our keynote speaker, and his name is Neil Franklin. He's the executive director of the Law Enforcement Action Partnership, which is a group of law enforcement officials, present, current, and former, who believe that the war on drugs has failed and there's got to be a better approach. So he's got some really awesome personal stories from years being a police officer in Baltimore, which is also actually coincidentally where I'm from. So I'm super psyched about it, and I hope you guys will join us. You can find information on conference.ssdp.org, and yeah, you can use your CAT points to get there, and I can't wait to meet you there.
Right on. Thank you so much, Stacia, for that. Really, guys, that is like, those conferences are probably one of the most exciting things about being a part of SSDP, being able to meet all of the SSDPers out there, and hearing what it is that they have to talk about is honestly probably, it was my favorite thing when I started off as an SSDPer, and I very strongly encourage anybody watching this to certainly go out there and join us in Baltimore in March. The last thing that I kind of want to bring up, or want to let everybody know about, is the SSDP blog. This is, you can find it at ssdp.org/blog, and it's a place for SSDP staff and students to basically share what it is that their opinions are on what's going on. It's also a good way for us to let students know about any new programs that are coming up, or any sort of events that people should know about. With that said, does anybody else on staff want to say anything before we Somebody close off. Cool. So hearing none, I appreciate everybody for joining us. Thank you so much. Please keep an eye out for the uploaded video, and I will be sending out a feedback form so you can let us know all the positives and negatives that you think happened throughout this. Thank you all, and take care.
Bye, thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. See you soon.